One thing we want to think about in the fall is making sure we test our hay so that we can get those results back and know what we need to do from a supplementation standpoint to our cows this winter. Sometimes we find out the hay's a little better than we thought and we can save some money on supplementation. At other times we find out, well, maybe that hay wasn't as good as we wanted, and so we do need to provide those cows some more protein or energy supplement to make sure that they're in the condition that we want them before calving to optimize their pregnancy rates in the future. When we go to sample hay, we want to make sure we sample roughly about 10% of the bales from each load or cutting. So we have a hay yard here that we're steading in today, and there's at least 4 different cuttings here. We would want to take a sample from each of those 4 cuttings. So let's say this one here, we look down this row, and let's say there were 80 bales from this particular cutting. We would want to sample roughly 8 to 10 of those bales to get at least our 10% there. And then we're going to take a composite of those and then send them to the lab. But when we take those samples, we don't want to just grab out of the end of the bale here and send that. That really doesn't give us a representative sample. What we want to do is take a hay probe like I have here, and we're going to take from the side of that bale, we're going to push this hay probe in and take a cross sample of these cores, and then from the 8 different bales we sample, we're going to composite that and send that one sample to the lab. And so there's a couple different types of probes. This is a push type probe I have here. This is actually my preference. We're just physically going to push it into the bale. They also make a drill type. Just make sure if you're using that, especially with a cordless drill, you take several batteries with you because they can wear the batteries out pretty quickly. So when we look, I don't want to come into the top of this bale and take my core, just from the standpoint of we're more likely to have some rain run into there and we have a little more weathering losses. So what I want to do is come to the side, kind of to the edge of it, and go in, and I can either go straight in or you could go at a slightly upward angle. I'm just going to go straight in here. So we would take and just push that in and pull it out, and if we were going to another bale, we would just repeat that process. With a good sharp tip, it doesn't take too much effort to push that in. For a lot of people, it's a little quicker than a drill type probe, so just your personal preference. The other thing with these push type probes, if you need it, most of them have a push rod that we can use to push that sample down. Usually between cores, when we're talking about the same lot, I won't do that. But when I get done, when I take the last core, so if I'm in the 8th bale, I'll push it down, then I can screw the end of this off of here and put that sample in a Ziploc bag or whatever kind of bag I'm going to send it to the lab. And then I would just want to shake it out really good between samples before I sample the next lot. Now before we send that sample to the lab, you want to visit with whatever nutritionist is going to advise you with your protein and energy supplement and see what forage lab they like to send samples to, because there's a lot of differences between labs and you'll get some variation. So visit with that nutritionist that you're going to seek those recommendations from and see what lab they prefer to send those samples to.